My name is James Calloway. I'm 73 years old. I need to tell you something I haven't said out loud to very many people. Something that took me years to understand and even longer to admit.
Something about the person I shared my life with and how I managed to be right there beside her every single day and still, somehow, miss her entirely. My wife Eleanor and I were married for 41 years. 41 years. I used to say that like it was an achievement, like the number itself meant something. And now I say it like what it actually is. 41 years of chances. Some of them taken, most of them not. Eleanor died 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. The doctor said the word in March. By July, she was gone. 4 months. That's all we got from diagnosis to the end. 4 months to say everything we should have been saying for decades. In those last weeks, lying in that hospice bed, getting smaller every day, she looked at me one afternoon and she said something I have thought about every single morning since. She said, "James, we spent so much of our time being comfortable that we forgot to be close." I didn't know what to do with that. My first instinct, even then, even sitting beside her hospital bed, was to defend myself. We had a good marriage. We didn't fight. We built a life together. We raised children. We paid the mortgage and took the vacations and did everything you're supposed to do. But that was exactly what she meant. We did everything we were supposed to do. And somewhere inside all of that obligation and routine and reliability, we forgot to actually find each other. Let me tell you how it happened, because it didn't happen all at once. That's the thing nobody warns you about. It's not a single moment you can point to. It's 1,000 small moments you barely noticed at the time. Eleanor would suggest things, little things. "There's a painting class starting at the community center. What do you think?" And I'd say I was too tired. "Remember when we used to drive nowhere in particular on Sunday afternoons?" And I'd say I had things to catch up on. "Let's stay up late tonight, just talk like we used to." And I'd say I had an early morning. I wasn't lying. I was tired. I did have things to do. I did have early mornings. But what I was really saying, without understanding I was saying it, was you are not my priority right now. Over and over and over again, across years and years, I said it without ever saying it. And Eleanor heard it every single time. What she did, because she was Eleanor, was adapt. She stopped suggesting the painting classes, stopped mentioning the Sunday drives, found her own friends, her own interests, her own quiet life that ran parallel to mine without ever quite touching it. We became two people sharing square footage, warm toward each other, considerate, polite, fundamentally alone. I told myself this was normal, that this is what long marriages become, that passion settles into companionship, and companionship is enough. I believed that. I actually believed it. Then she got sick, and we had a deadline, and suddenly I could see everything I hadn't been able to see before. In those 4 months, we talked more honestly than we had in 20 years. She told me things I had no idea she was carrying, disappointments she had folded up small and put somewhere I couldn't see, dreams she had quietly retired without ever announcing it, moments where she had felt completely invisible inside her own marriage. About 3 weeks before she died, she told me about Scotland. Her grandmother had emigrated from a small village in the Scottish Highlands. Eleanor had wanted to go her entire adult life, to walk the ground her grandmother had walked, to understand where she came from. She had brought it up to me over the years. I remember that now. I can hear her voice saying it, and every time I had an answer. Too expensive, not a good time. Maybe when we retire, Elle. Maybe then. We never went. Sitting there in that room, she wasn't angry telling me this. She wasn't trying to make me feel guilty. She was just honest in the way that people become when they no longer have the energy for anything else. She was sad. She had the face of a woman who had accepted something a long time ago and was only now letting me see that she'd accepted it. I asked her why she never pushed harder, why she didn't insist. She said, "I didn't want you to take me there because you felt you had to. I wanted you to want to go." I have turned that sentence over in my hands every day for 6 years. She didn't want my obligation. She didn't want me to perform enthusiasm I didn't feel. She wanted me to actually care about something because it mattered to the person I loved, and I couldn't give her that. Not for Scotland, not for the painting class, not for the Sunday drives, not for any of it. I thought love was the big things, being faithful, being reliable, showing up for the crises. And yes, those things matter. I'm not saying they don't. But what I didn't understand, what I genuinely did not understand until it was too late to do anything about it, is that love lives in the small things, the ordinary Tuesday morning, the question you ask because you're actually curious, the thing you do not because it interests you, but because it interests them, and that's reason enough. I stopped doing the small things, so gradually I didn't even notice. One postponed conversation became a habit of not talking. One "not tonight" became the assumption of every night. One "we'll do it someday" became the shape of our whole life together. After Eleanor died, I found a journal in her nightstand. I wish I could tell you I was prepared for what was inside it. I wasn't. Reading it was like meeting someone I had lived with for 40 decades and somehow never known. She wrote about loneliness. She wrote about the specific feeling of being in a room with someone who was technically present and functionally somewhere else entirely. She wrote about times she had tried to reach me and hadn't known how. She wrote about giving up on dreams so quietly that I never even heard it happen. She also wrote about love, about the man she had married and the man she kept hoping would come back. She loved me. That was clear on every page. She loved me, and she was lonely, and those two things lived inside her for most of our marriage, and I had no idea. I was right there. I slept beside her for 41 years. I might as well have been a photograph on the wall. Here is what I know now that I didn't know then. The thing that quietly ends most long relationships isn't a betrayal. It isn't a dramatic falling out. It's indifference. It's the slow, entirely unintentional process of taking someone for granted so consistently that the taking for granted becomes the relationship. You stop asking questions because you think you already know everything about them. You stop making effort because they've always been there, and you assume they'll always be. You stop choosing them actively, deliberately, the way you chose them at the beginning, and you tell yourself that's just what time does to love. It isn't. That's what neglect does to love, and neglect doesn't feel like neglect when you're inside it. It feels like comfort. It feels like routine. It feels like two people who know each other so well they don't need to try anymore. They need to try. You always need to try. If you have someone, if there is a person in your life who chose you and is still choosing you, I want you to sit with a question. When did you last ask them something you didn't already know the answer to? When did you last do something purely because it would make them happy, not because an occasion required it, not because you felt guilty, but just because making them happy felt like reason enough? When did you last look at them and feel the specific, chosen gratitude of someone who knows what they have? If you have to think hard to remember, you are where I was. After Eleanor died, people told me I had been a good husband. They said it kindly, they meant it, but they were measuring against a low bar, and I knew it. I didn't cheat, I didn't leave, I didn't raise my voice or my hand. I provided, and I showed up for every minimum requirement. But that is not the same thing as loving someone well. Loving someone well means staying curious about them even after decades. It means saying yes to the painting class, even if painting doesn't interest you, because she interests you and she wants to paint. It means booking the trip to Scotland, not because the Highlands matter to you, but because they matter to her and she matters to you, and that chain of mattering should be enough. I still have a photograph of Eleanor from our honeymoon, 1972. She's laughing, squinting into the sun, her hair moving in the wind off the water. She is so completely alive in that photograph. And I think about who she was when that photograph was taken, all that hope, all those dreams she had yet quietly set aside. And I think about the woman she became, still beautiful, still kind, but with a patience in her eyes that I put there, year by year, by being a man who was present and not engaged, reliable and not connected, comfortable and not close. She was right. We wasted so much time being comfortable instead of close. 6 years later, I still think about Scotland. I think about what it would have cost me, a week, some money,